You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 301. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, author of How to Get On Podcasts, the podcast matchmaker, and CEO and founder of the MLG Collective. I'm excited to share the stories and life lessons of changemakers and authors with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac. And today, my guest is amazing. I have been following Dr. Nola Haynes for a while now. We are both persisters. That means that we are in the Persist network. And I have been wanting to get to talk to her, to glean some knowledge from her. She knows about space security. She knows about national security. She is a professor at Georgetown. She's absolutely freaking incredible, and she has her finger on the pulse and so much more. So I can't wait for you to get to know Dr. Nola Haynes and to hear everything that she has to say about what's going on right now and what her journey to getting here has been like. Hi, Nola.
Hi, Michelle.
Oh, my day is already made that I get to talk to you and to see your smile. I am so excited.
I'm excited too. Your excitement has made me excited.
It's rubbing off through the screen. Before we jump right in, can you introduce yourself to everyone? Just give them a high level who you are. Although everyone should know. I'm going to make sure they know.
Let me see which part of my bio. Let's see.
It's long. It is long and impressive.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Michelle's viewers and audience. My name is Dr. Nola Haynes, and I wear several hats. But today, I am repping one of my alma maters, honey, because they got it right.
They did.
I'm happy and proud today.
I like to always make sure that we give props when a company or a representative does well, but that also means that we can criticize when they don't do well.
That's right.
Yes.
Because I haven't worn these two items in a minute. It's the day I wear them together. Okay. So who am I? Because I can get way sidetracked. I'm a Southern woman, and I can just go in many different directions. But anyway, I am an academic. I am an adjunct professor at Georgetown University, where I proudly teach space security. It is my baby, and it is growing and growing and growing. I teach other classes there too, but space security is like my baby. I am a arms control and international security expert. To put that in a larger box, national security and foreign policy. I had an appointment at Department of State and wearing several other hats in the national security community. And right now I am working with Women of Color Advancing Peace and Security as a senior advisor. And, just doing a lot of other things. There's a media side to my life and to my world. There's the academic side. There's the policy side. And then there's the let's try and fix democracy side.
Which is like such a huge job, as we know.
That small job.
Minor detail. It just takes up like 23 out of 24 hours a day.
Exactly.
The 1 hour is to sleep. So you're basically an overall badass. It's a term that I've taught my 9-year-old. She's not supposed to cuss, but she's allowed to say badass when she recognizes a badass.
Love that. I kind of love that.
Yes. And she says it quietly. She'll go, Mom, is she a badass?
That's like your special little thing together. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
And she goes, can I say it to Daddy or will I get in trouble?
So how does Daddy respond to that? Is he okay with it?
He's okay with it. Yeah. Because he knows. And I forewarned the principal when we started kindergarten that if they ever get sent to the principal for cussing, it's because of me. So it's fine. It's fine. I was like, I will take full responsibility. They hear it in the car every morning.
Look no further.
I will own it. I want to know how you got involved in space and security. Like, these are such huge things that we talk about. We just saw all the, I want to use air quotes and stuff. They went to space. No, they didn't. They went and they orbited in a
Yeah.
little box. But we have real astronauts that go up into space and they train for a long time. And so you have like kids per se of, I want to grow up to be an astronaut and go to space. Who grows up and says, I want to practice space security and learn everything about it, and I want to do national security? Like, where did this start and come from?
Okay, so I have honed this story to where it doesn't take too long because there are a few twists and turns.
I'll
But
give you all day. I don't care.
I will start. I will start in undergrad. Very proudly repping for UCLA. UCLA Bruins all day. I mean, I know I have on Harvard gear today, but my start at UCLA. Very early on in political science. At first, I went. So I went back to school. I'm something called a non-traditional student. My first career. Okay, you ready for this, Michelle? You ready for this? You ready?
Oh, I already know because
You
I
already know.
Googled. And I went, wait, is there an IMDb? This the same Nola? Maybe not. Maybe. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I am very quiet. Thankfully, I was an actress during a time where you can't find everything. Like you can't find the commercials. You can't really find the TV shows. And I'm quite happy with that. I am quite happy with that. But acting was a huge part of my life. Went back to school after Hurricane Katrina. And that was a very personal thing for me because coming from a community in New Orleans that really prides education, my parents worked very hard to send me to private Catholic school for a long time. I just kind of wanted to return to my roots in a sense. And I wanted to go back to New Orleans and help physically rebuild. So I went back to school to be a geologist because I wanted to be an environmental engineer because my dad's an engineer. So I was like, I'll be an engineer like my dad, but for the environment. So wind up taking one political science class and that was all she wrote. I never looked back. I never looked back. I never, ever, ever looked back. I think it was like a class on, I think at this time, everybody was up in arms with the EU wanting their own currency. And that was like the big thing back then. And I was just like, that's so fascinating. So anyway, fell in love with political science, studied abroad a little bit in Africa, where I got to see more international side and more international discussions. Then went to Harvard Divinity School, and this is when everything really started to take shape. This is going to be a very strange story about terrorism coming out of the Divinity School, but hang on.
I'm on the edge of my seat, like literally.
So I went to Harvard Divinity School with my little research about Black Catholics and all of this stuff, the intersections of like race, religion, and class. I was pretty much writing about my experience growing up in New Orleans. I was heavily influenced by the Morial family, the first Black mayor of New Orleans, and his son, Mark Morial, is now the president of the Urban League. So very influenced by the way all of these different things came together. I was proud of myself, doing my research about my home and all these different things. And then I get there, and I think my second year, I had to take a foreign language. And my advisor, who was on sabbatical, I had a woman who had stepped in for that year, and she was like, "You're already bomb." She's like, "You want to take it to the next level?" I was like, "Yes. How can I take it to the next level?" She's like, "Learn Arabic." I said, "Bet." I'm gonna learn Arabic, and that's what I did.
Badass.
But this is I'm getting to it. So I was in Boston during the Boston bombings, and for many folks who weren't there, they tend to kind of like discount the seriousness and everything that happened during that time. And so here I am, I had my big Arabic book that I took with me everywhere. I'm standing at the bus stop outside of the law school with my hair wrapped. This white man walks up to me and spits on me. I guess he just assumed I was Muslim. I don't know. And everyone at the bus stop, no one did anything. I think everyone was shocked. And then after it happened, we were like, did that just happen? And I was like, that just happened because I have spit on me. That was a profound moment for me. And so at that time at the divinity school, this is not too long after 9/11. Okay, so terrorism is a conversation around identity, gender, religion. Like, we're still having these conversations. And so I found myself at a lecture one day on this book called The Veil. And I heard the professor say, where she started is not where she ended. And something about that just clicked for me. And so I started my work started to take an international lens. And then I really started to kind of lean into terrorism and identity. And that was the work that I was doing when I got into my PhD program. I was doing like terrorism, identity, religion. That's the track I was on, doing all this work. And then I started reading kind of like some national security legal papers. And they're like, well, the real threat isn't really global terrorism anymore. It is illegal proliferation of nuclear weapons. And I'm like, oh my goodness, okay. So then I start unpacking that. I started doing a deep dive. At that time, I was doing some research on state-sponsored terrorism, started getting really into sanctions and all these different things. And before I know it, I'm asked to teach an arms control class at Pepperdine. And I'm like, yeah, sure, sure. And this is a time where students didn't care. They weren't thinking about nuclear weapons. Like, the world was pretty tame, right? This is, this is when the world post Cold War, post World War II, like that international system was pretty much shut down, right? So kids just really weren't that interested in arms control. They were interested in cybersecurity, but they weren't interested in like the breadth of arms control, right? And I think at that time I was involved with Women of Color Advancing Peace and Security, I think right when they started. And I had tweeted something one day when it was still called Twitter. And Ambassador Bonnie Jenkins, the former first Black person ever to be an undersecretary, she was the Undersecretary of Arms Control and International Security. And she said something like, it seems like you found your calling. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. Ambassador Jenkins responded to me. I was just like, oh my God. Okay. So anyway, so my research just started to kind of naturally take this shape, moving into the arms control space. And then the world goes crazy. Russia invades Ukraine for the second time. And, that's when Russia starts moving away from our different treaties and agreements around nuclear security. And all of a sudden, arms control people are thinking and talking about it again, So it was this trajectory from terrorism that led me to tracking down folks who were using kind of like illegal weapons of mass destruction, that then naturally led me to kind of like the world of arms control. And how did I get in space? The story's almost done.
I love it. I am so intrigued. I'm like, oh yes, this is incredible.
So the way that I tend to think about my growth as an academic is the one through thread is I'm very interested in threats. So in arms control, there is a huge canon, like a huge kind of legal canon that protects space. There are all of these kind of legal instruments that are designed to make sure that we aren't doing really naughty things in space. But guess what? We are doing really naughty things in space.
Of course. Yeah.
And so I was really drawn. I was really drawn to this kind of traditional IR thinking about like these big concepts of global realignment, anarchy, blah, blah, blah. So in the one sense, there's like this huge research interest in space. And on the other sense, there's this practical policy side in space. If the election would have gone differently, there's no doubt in my mind that space would have been part of my portfolio. At State, it was something that we were definitely talking a lot about. And as a security person, space is one of those domains where some scary things can happen. Mm-hmm. And people tend not to think about how much we use space in our everyday lives. I mean, you can't pick this thing up without space.
Right.
That's just the one use of it, right? And space is largely responsible for protecting us. So I was just really, really drawn to space from the aspect of security, from the aspect of the type of weapons that are being developed, um, that can either penetrate space or actually be in space. And so, yeah, it was just a natural progression, like from threats and weapons. And I don't know why these things excite me. I have no idea. But
And I want to know, how do you sleep at night? Because you know so much more than the rest of us. And I mean, I know as much as I know, and I'm still like, oh, can I sleep at night? And you know a lot. I, I mean, there's so many threats, and we know that there's more and more. There's stuff happening that some we know about, some we read about. I think people are sleeping under rocks and ignoring, because that lets them sleep at night. But how are you sleeping at night knowing that all of this shit is going on and that there are constant threats? I think there are constant threats.
well, the sleep has been less shaky since November 5th. I can tell you that. I definitely I felt like, folks that I worked with, colleagues across the national security apparatus, across the IC, the intelligence community, were very smart, very dedicated. Seeing colleagues morning, noon, and night, all they think about, all they work on is Ukraine and Russia, Israel, Gaza. I saw that commitment. I saw what was happening. I saw the hard work of the folks who got Brittany Griner back out of Russia. So I really had this trust and colleagues spread out across this vast national security spectrum. And that actually helped me sleep at night, if I'm being honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
because I knew the folks were good at what they do, right? That they were seasoned, that they were well trained, that they cared. So I don't know that in this administration, right? That's the
Yeah.
anxiety. And then last night with the report and Rachel Maddow, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm not shocked. I don't want to come off like I'm shocked.
Right.
I'm I'm irritated. I'm irritated
I'm pissed, but
because we did not have to be
yeah.
here, Michelle.
No, none of this has to happen. I truly believe that what we see happening every single day are choices that are being made for absolutely no reason other than he wants power, he wants recognition, he wants to run a country as a dictator, and he wants to make sure that everyone aligns with his beliefs so that he is number one and everyone falls in line. But that's a choice.
Yeah, but it also speaks to, we were talking about the community that we're both a part of, Persist, earlier.
Yes.
And I know for me, I was definitely one of the messengers out there, trying to talk to people about the realities of what would happen if Kamala Harris did not win in 2025. And it's not just because she's a Black woman, a Southeast Asian woman. It wasn't that. In terms of who can keep us safe, who cares about all Americans. And a personal thing for me was when VP Harris had announced her policy for caregivers.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle, I was a caregiver for a long time. My mom passed at the end of 2023.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. And that was a very long battle of just seeing her health decline in different stages. And I know the quality of life that I didn't have as an only child. And so when she rolled out the caregiver policy, like, I cried. I genuinely cried. And I was in the corner in North Carolina canvassing, making a video about it because I was just so overwhelmed with the emotion that a future, a possible future president of the United States considered the lives of caregivers.
Because she was a regular person, I think, like us. I truly believe that's what, for me, was such a big deal. I mean, we've seen now that she's back in Los Angeles and she's grocery shopping with Doug. And despite what the media might say, why are they grocery shopping? Because they're normal people. They're
And
everyday people. She grew up, not far from where I'm in San Jose. So she's a Bay Area
Mhm,
person. She
mhm.
knows what it's like to live here, to grow up. Donald Trump does not know. Has he been in the grocery store besides the one photo op?
That part.
No. Or like,
Exactly.
really, he's never been to a car dealership until they brought the Teslas to the White House lawn.
Ugh, ugh.
It
That
it
was so cringe. Ugh.
He's not a
Can
normal
you
person.
imagine if Barack Obama or President Biden turned the White House into a car dealership?
No, no. But they also wouldn't have a ding dong jumping up and down in the Oval Office. And, they would not be belittling another leader of another country for the way he wore an outfit, despite someone else wearing the same outfit. So these aren't normal people. These are not regular people. And I think that's part of the biggest problem, is that we have these very wealthy individuals there are wealthy individuals out there who have done life, like Warren Buffett still lives in the house that he bought, 100 years ago for barely any money. He understands life. But we have this guy who was born with a silver spoon, who's thrown that spoon away many times over, and he doesn't get life. He doesn't get what it's like to be truly an American who's living regular everyday life.
Right. And it's really interesting what all this has done. In one regard, there is a part of me that feels America needed to see this. America needed to experience some of the things that we are experiencing, because I'm hoping and praying once we get out of this that we can make sure that we never wind up here again. I can tell you, as a political scientist, democracy scholars have been warning for years that democracy is so fragile, and it just takes that one bad actor, as we are seeing in real time. Right? We saw it in the first administration, but there were guardrails, there were adults in the room. Now they are all MAGA acolytes, right? That have very big, serious jobs. And that's the thing about this. This is not a game. This is not a monopoly board that you think that somehow you can just move pieces and manipulate pieces on the board and they're going to do what you want them to do. That is not how the world works. And we are seeing countries push back. I mean, look what the manufacturers did in China, bursting the bubble of luxury goods. Now, I bet when some of those people who might have been at the inauguration or might have voted for Donald Trump, some of those luxury goods folks that owns a lot of these companies, I bet they didn't see this coming. Right?
Right.
I bet they didn't see this coming. I wonder if Mark Zuckerberg saw his upcoming trial coming. His upcoming trial when he was standing next to Trump on inauguration day. I wonder if Elon Musk saw coming pretty much the complete collapse of his entire brand. I wonder if Target saw coming their capitulation to this administration and getting rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I wonder if Walmart saw it coming. I wonder if Ford saw it coming with these tariffs. I wonder if union workers saw it coming. I wonder if some of the veterans that voted for him saw it coming. Right?
And obviously they didn't. Otherwise, they wouldn't have voted this way. And yet those of us who didn't vote that way saw it coming. And
exactly. And that's kind of part of the problem. And I'll bring persist back into this. I can tell you, as a Black woman who was a messenger, I was screaming this stuff from the top of my lungs every time I got a chance. Like, listen, he can go on television and tell you he doesn't know about Project 2025, but that is a lie. That is a lie. But no, women, we're called histrionic and it won't be that bad. I can't tell you how many people said to me, it won't be that bad. Okay. As my entire dissertation, about 2/3 of my dissertation, Michelle, is about Donald Trump's national security policies when it came to the travel bans in 2017 and 2020. This is a person I've studied. I studied all of his comments about Muslims. I pulled all of the data from Twitter, read all of his comments. I know his mannerisms, his speech. When he says a thing, he means it. Like, he'll test it, he'll roll it out, and then there'll be pushback, and then eventually that thing will happen. The worst of his impulses, because he's so intent on hurting people and getting retribution.
and I don't know if you can answer this, but this is something that's been going through my mind. What do we say to these individuals who did vote this way that we know? Because there's a lot of silent people who voted this way and they remain silent. But those who have been vocal, there's one in particular that I would love to just go up to her and go, what now? What is this what you wanted? Is this exactly what you wanted? Because there's a part of me that thinks you did want this because you were wearing those shirts very proudly. What do we say to them? Do we say something, or do we continue saying what we're saying on our platforms, or do we go initiate such a conversation?
I'm not interested. Like there's also a part of this that is behavioral, that is psychological. And I think for the core base, for that 30 so percent, maybe a few will peel off, but a lot of this does resemble some cultish behavior. It doesn't matter what the leader of the cult says or does. Those people will blindly believe because they've adopted that person's lifestyle as their own.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's one of the largest differences between, Democrats who are just voting for certain policies. I mean, I don't know one Democrat that lives being a Democrat as a lifestyle. Like that's not even a thing. Like you vote for people and then you go on with the rest of your life, you know. While
I love that you said that. I'm like, that should be its own social media. Like, let's make that viral.
I mean, but seriously, like, I mean, I know that camouflage hat was really cute that Karen Khan's husband designed with the Harris Walls hat. It was cute.
Mm-hmm.
People wore it for 5 minutes, but they didn't wear it like a uniform.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we are talking about different types of behavior. We're not talking about normal politics.
Nola, they put maxi pads over their ears. That's not normal.
Girl, that part. And we moved over that. Like, I still have questions about that boy. And I think I read something somewhere that I don't want to get too much in the weeds in that. Like, there are a lot of national security situations that I am absolutely worried about. A lot of foreign policy situations that I'm worried about. I'm worried about us retreating from our allies and partners. I'm worried about the world no longer being able to trust us, even once we do get ourselves out of this, because we could be right back in it again in 4 years. We have to really show the world, we have to really pivot towards codifying some of these norms. A lot of the reason why we are here is because Trump world understands norms versus laws, and they absolutely understand loopholes. They're not interested in statesmanship. They're not interested in dignity and morality and ethics and your word is your bond. They're not interested in any of that. They are interested in maintaining power for as long as possible, for some really icky version of white Christian nationalism to be the ideological driving force behind all of this. And in that world, people like me, we're not necessarily included. We're not included
Right.
in that type of vision, right? And in that type of really dark and dystopian vision.
Mm-hmm. I think the next question is like, what do we do? Where do we go from here? Who's going to stop them? That's something that I've got friends who ask me all the time, what's going to stop them? Because it's obviously not the courts. We're in the middle of a constitutional crisis because the court says one thing. He's like, whatever. That was nice. He thinks his executive orders are law. So he just signs whatever. And, that's nice. Who's going to stop him? Because we have an entire group of representatives, Republicans, and even some Democrats who keep saying yes to things. And I'm like, no, your job's say no. You say no to everything right now. Absolutely not. No. What are we going to do? Who is going to stand up? How do we stop this? Because he was impeached twice before, but yet what's an impeachment, honestly? If you're like, no, you shouldn't have done that, but you still get to keep your job.
Mm-hmm. These are all great questions.
And you don't have all the answers? No.
I do not have all the answers, but I will say this. Standing up to a bully will always work. You have to stand up to the bully. That's number one. Do not capitulate to a bully, because like when I look at what's happening with a lot of the academic institutions, and when I think about Columbia, when I think about some of these law firms, the only thing that a personality like Donald Trump is going to do once you bend the knee, once you capitulate, he's going to humiliate you further, right? You cannot capitulate. You cannot give in to the bully. That's one thing. And we have to continue to put the pressure on. We have to continue with the rapid response. And at some point, and I imagine that the Supreme Court is kind of going through this existential crisis right now when they're like, oh, wait a minute. We are giving away all of our power. We will be powerless. That is the light bulb that has to go off of these Republicans, realizing, oh, you were giving your power away. Because guess what? In 26, all Democrats have to do is to show up and tell you that your representative did nothing for you as you lost your job
Mm-hmm.
because your company was concerned about these tariffs, or your government job that Elon Musk seems to think is pretty hilarious, just firing all these people at random. He doesn't care, right? So once these folks realize that their own power is on the chopping board, I think that's when we'll start to see more people speak up. But we have to remind them of that. That has to be part of the messaging constantly. Oh, you ran for office. You went through all of that just to simply cede your power to want to be dictator in a Republican democracy. Got it. So that's why you ran, to completely just give up your power. Right. So it's this kind of imbalance of power that these leaders, the light bulb has to click. Wait a minute. This isn't why I ran for office. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I think all of these things are part of it. I think that the Democrats right now can only do so much. I know that they are really rethinking messaging. They are embracing new media. They are bringing in new voices into these spaces. With Liz Booker, who's amazing, Haley, like all of these different voices to talk directly to the American public. And one thing, that I'll say that I love about doing Black media specifically is on some shows, you have people call in and you can talk to Americans. You can have a conversation and see what people are. I couldn't do that on MSNBC or BBC or Al Jazeera, but it's like when you invite the audience in to participate, that's a different type of survey research. And, in my
Yeah.
social science
Yeah.
brain, right? That's a different type of data that you can gather from everyday Americans. And I'm kind of like in this new media space, trying to figure it out as less eyes are looking at traditional media.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where Persist is wonderful, because Rhonda woke up one day and said, wait a minute, I know all of these incredible women. This needs to be the counter to the so-called manosphere,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Exactly.
And the only way we can do that is with a network. We cannot do it alone. We need your podcast. We need all the things. We need the entire network. And that's what I love about Persist. We are a network. If I post something, I tag you,
I'm
or
sharing
you know
it.
what I'm
And
saying?
yeah,
Like,
we're
it's
redoing
a
it. It's
network.
amazing.
It's a
Yes.
network, and that's how you penetrate. That's how you break through. It's not going to happen overnight. We just have to continue to be consistent with it. Consistent, and for the network to grow bigger and stronger.
I absolutely adore you. I
Oh,
was a
yeah.
fan before, but you're amazing. You are such an
Thank
incredible
you.
human being. You are so intelligent. You are kicking ass in everything that you do. You're a brilliant soul. I adore you. I
Michelle,
we're
thank
best friends now, even though we were friends before, and I can hit you up and signal.
Oh, good old Signal. And we're not doing anything nefarious in Signal. I just want to go ahead and put
No,
that out there. There are no
no.
national security secrets being leaked.
No, we're not talking space security or any of that nonsense. No.
Or military ops being run in our Signal chat.
No. Oh my goodness. You're incredible. Can you share everyone your Instagram, wherever you would like them to follow you?
Thank you, Michelle. So I am on Instagram and Blue Sky at Nola Haynes. If you just want to take a peek to see what I'm up to professionally, I'm on LinkedIn, also at Nola Haynes. I'm very easy to find.
We didn't even talk about your name.
Oh, right. And I also want to tell people to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered every Thursday night, the best night on Roland Martin Unfiltered. I appear weekly with Reese Colbert and Dr. Greg Carr. So tune into that. Tune in this Thursday.
Yes.
My name. So,
Yeah.
okay. It's just, Nola's a nickname that that people would call me here and there, but it really stuck in 2010. I was doing study abroad in Ghana, and the Saints made it to the Super Bowl. I will never forget this. And a really good friend of mine stood up with me at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to watch the Super Bowl. And the Saints won. And I was so obnoxious. I was screaming all in the dorms at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, it was crazy. I was real obnoxious. And so Nola started to stick. My name is Ebony, which now at this point is just family or some version of Ebony, you know. But yeah, Nola just kind of stuck, and it fits my personality. And I'm
I
like,
love it. And I
okay,
love Nola, so I love you, and it all
exactly.
just
I love
comes
having
together.
a hometown. Exactly. I'm not a tattoo girl. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll own it by it being my name. So New Orleans, I'm New Orleans made, and I'm very proud of it. So yeah, that's how the name came to be.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing yourself and all of your knowledge with all of us. And hopefully everyone takes action and joins us and persist.
Yes, and follow Persist. We are on Blue Sky at the Persist Network. We are on Threads at the Persist Network. We are on Instagram at the Persist Network, and we are also launching 2 Instagram live shows. So prepare for that.
And on TikTok.
Oh yeah, and we're also on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, so I always forget about TikTok. My bad. We're also on TikTok. That's an important part of this. So we have a lot coming from Persist. We are really trying to like alter the game here. You know, we're not thinking traditionally, and so we hope that you all will start to see that in the products that we start to roll out.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. This was wonderful. My Persist girlfriend.
Okay, friends, I need you to go join the Persist Network. Go follow us. Become a persister. We need you to speak up. Now is not the time to remain silent. I know that I keep saying that, and I will continue saying it until everyone is speaking up about what we see going on right now. I'm so grateful to Dr. Nola Haynes for coming on and sharing her story, for sharing her background and educating each and every one of us about what we're seeing going on, how we need to take action, and what really needs to happen to stop this administration. Go follow her, listen to what she has to say, and go make a difference today. Take action.